Welcome, everyone. I'm John Deputato, President of U.S. Apparel at the NPD Group, and I'm delighted to be here as a guest of Kingpins and to be part of this exciting forum that brings the denim industry together. NPD has been delivering data and insights to our clients for over 50 years, and we want our retail and brand partners to know that we are here to help you through these difficult times. For the folks who don't know NPD, we track over 20 industries and collect point-of-sale data for more than 1,300 retailers in the U.S., both in e-commerce and in brick and mortar. We field 12 million consumer surveys each year and mine the cash register receipts of millions of shoppers to understand what, where, and why consumers are buying. I'm joined today by Don Unser, President of Retail at the NPD Group. Don leads NPD's practice for thought leadership, financial services, and the public sector. He also oversees NPD's panel of more than 1,300 retailers, representing all platforms across both e-commerce and brick and mortar. His expertise in consumer and retail sales spans a wide range of general merchandise categories, making him a trusted advisor to some of today's most successful brands. He's a frequent guest in the C-suites of companies such as Target, LG, Adidas, Wolverine, and Fruit of the Loom, to name a few. So welcome, Don.
Thanks, John.
So let's start out with how NPD is monitoring the impact of COVID-19 on retail here in the U.S.
So, John, we have lots of different data sets, and the first thing that we did is to take as many data sets as we could that had a monthly cadence to it and move it to a weekly cadence, because we knew that this was really going to unfold in a weekly way that we all needed to monitor. The other piece that we did is we started looking at data from a geographic standpoint to see how are the different states and how are the different, right down to townships, how are sales happening as this crisis, healthcare crisis, unfolds. And then the third piece is that we've really engaged our receipt and our attitudinal type measurements to try to figure out what is the consumer thinking about, where else is the consumer spending, and really tracking that as we go through this crisis. So two things, John. We took the aperture of our lens and we opened it up as wide as we could, and then we also tried to get a quicker cadence of all of our data assets. Although, albeit they might not be at the level of granularity we normally have, we're trying to get the best sense of what's happening for our clients that we can.
So NPD tracks over 20 different industries, right, ranging from apparel, footwear, and accessories to consumer technology to food, all the way straight through to the auto aftercare market. So can you talk about how some of the different ways these industries are being affected?
Yeah, so if you put a fine point on the two big areas of consumer spending in the U.S. that NPD tracks, it's really the discretionary categories, the categories that people don't have to have. These are the categories that people shop with their discretionary income. So that's one piece. The other piece that we track is restaurants and the food service industry. So those are the two big pieces that we've carved out as going as deep and as wide as we could with owning. So I think it's important to kind of let people know what we look at first. What we're seeing across all of our data, and we call it general merchandise or discretionary spend, is you can see in this chart here kind of what the normal rate of purchases were for our products. Now, restaurants is not in here. This is just general merchandise. The categories or industries are actually listed at the bottom of the chart here. And they range from electronics to toys to soft lines to auto parts, etc. And so we saw a normal purchasing pattern in the January-February timeframe. Starting about week 2 in March is where we started seeing a dislocated consumer and a dislocated retail environment, specifically with clothes. And since we're talking to a soft lines industry here, specifically the deepest cuts have been, or dislocation has been both on the demand side and the supply side for soft lines. And when I say supply, I'm not talking about inventory. I'm talking about stores being open to sell to a consumer apparel products. So we're hitting this point here of decline at about 26% overall. I will tell you, John, that the number for soft lines is more in the 60% range across accessories, apparel, and footwear.
That's pretty substantial. So when you think about all the industries that we track, right, are there any bright spots that are popping up, any industries that we track that are actually doing well?
Yeah, so if you think about the math of the previous slide, 26 down, but soft lines, which is one of our largest industries that we track, being down 60, there are some industries that are either maintaining or actually growing in this environment. So if you think about it, John, how our lives have changed is that we are home. We are home with our kids. We are in shelter in place. We are working from home. We are cooking. Restaurants, we track 660,000 restaurant locations in the U.S. in terms of what they sell, and 97% of those have some type of a service model that has been largely disrupted. So with all of that said, our needs have changed dramatically. So if you think about the categories that lend themselves to being home with your family and working from home, a couple of them are listed here. One that's not listed here is tech. So I want to start there because working from home, we've had to get monitors and printers and ink and paper and webcams and office chairs. So all of those categories, networking devices, have really skyrocketed and gone through the roof here over the last 3 or 4 weeks. We don't know if that's sustainable because, quite frankly, once you set up your office, then you move into consumption categories of ink, toner, and paper. You're really not consuming any new technology. So that's one piece. We have a few others listed here. The toy industry has absolutely, certain parts of it have seen absolute growth here. And it's been fascinating to watch. But we're also seeing a spike in outdoor toys, for example, as you keep shelter in place, but have your kids go out and play in the backyard and keep them very, very occupied. The office supplies piece up 9%. That is primarily the paper type products that don't fit in your printer. I'm talking about the toilet paper and paper towels and the such that the office supply stores have been selling. Also, any kind of sanitation type products being sold there also sell very well. Small appliances is an interesting one because people are home, they're cooking more. The shelter in place, I mean, you can certainly go out and pick up food, but we're not eating out at restaurants because restaurants are not open. So this one's going to be interesting to watch to see if it's peaking. One of the things that's fairly widely reported out there is bread makers or bread machines. You can't find a bread machine to save your life. I mean, you can go, and the premiums on the ones out there on eBay are really fun to watch as well. So there are some bright spots here, John, but they're all around the dislocated consumer, the consumer's needs, as it has been thrusted upon them, so to speak.
So, Don, you and I have been talking a lot about the movement to online shopping over the last couple of years, right? Obviously, a lot more people now are shopping online as many states have this shelter-in-place order. So has online been able to offset, the decline from shuttered stores?
Yeah, online is certainly growing, John. We're looking at a measure that we have of receipts. Now, the previous couple of slides we were talking about NPD's POS universe. This slide here is talking about all of retail, even the categories we don't track. And this talks about the numbers of receipts that we get in from our panel. And this is kind of the breakout of online to stores. Now, this is not dollars, and the volume of this of course, the size of these businesses is quite different as well. But to answer your exact question, online has not been able to make up the loss in store sales in any industry, really. By and large, the dollars in the last 3 or 4 weeks that have been lost in the categories that we track, that have been lost in store, only about a third has been made up of what has been online. And a lot of things are driving that, John. A lot of it is the capacity. We just don't have the scale in online in all the industries to be able to ramp up anywhere close to what we did in the stores.
Wow. So, things are changing so rapidly from day to day. And given the folks that are on the line today, can you give some insights on what brands should be doing now in order to be ready for the recovery?
Yeah, the biggest questions that we're getting from brands is how much product should I be making and what should I be thinking about in order to support all the places I distribute my product today? And I think those are the right questions. I also think we have to understand supply and demand, just the basics of that right now. Right now, we do not have a level of demand for many of the softline categories that's anywhere close to where it was this time last year or even in the January, February timeframe. So I'm asking clients to keep a very close eye on demand. What signals do we have that demand is going to be coming back for our particular categories? And then once we understand demand levels, then we need to work and figure out how we're distributing our product today. Has that changed for our consumer? Are there different places we should be thinking about distributing our product? Are there places we've distributed product before that is no longer going to be available? There's unfortunately going to be some casualties of places we sell products today. So those are some of the top things I would think about as we go through this health crisis, as we emerge from it, and as we get back into our new normal, whatever that's going to be.
So we only have a few more minutes left. So, most of our clients ask us the same question. That question is when. When will retail bounce back after stores open back up? So can you share how NPD is evaluating the recovery and how clients can understand across industries how this crisis is unfolding and, importantly, where their industry might be in the recovery?
John, there's so many different variables on the when piece that I don't know that anybody can exactly put their finger on it for the consumer or for a particular industry. And I have seen some forecasts out there, and we're trying really hard at NPD, trying to be very factual about what we're seeing and pointing out the things that we are tracking in order to get to an answer. But I don't think it's time to put any answers on the table of when and how much demand will be. But here's a construct that we are using with clients of the 5 phases of the road to recovery. So the realization phase we kind of blew through already, which is, hey, we've really got a dislocated consumer, and the reality phase is when we had stores closing, we had the consumer being just changing their entire focus on what they what they buy. Restarting is when we're going to have some stores reopening, but we still don't have the supply chain back up and running. Recovery is when we're going to be getting supply and demand kind of together. And then reemergence is going to be what is our new normal of demand. And we're going to be tracking this as we go, John. And many of our clients have been seeing this in our economic virus report that we're putting out. So stay tuned. But these are the kinds of things that we would encourage our clients to think about.
So that was great, Don. Thanks so much for spending time with us today. Don, I want to thank you for all that you've done. We've been working together for a long time, and I want to say I appreciate your thoughtfulness and insights.
You bet.
So that's all the time we have for today. For more information, visit our website at npd.com or give me a call. I'd like to also thank Andrew Olaf for giving us this opportunity today. Thank you, everyone.